Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective. Today we are going to be looking at something else from Mobvoi. So I've actually been a fan of their series of watches all the way back since I originally kickstarted the first TicWatch E series. They did have other watches before it, but the E is kind of what introduced me to smartwatches beyond the Pebble and the company itself. And they've been making quite a few products, many of them featured on this channel thanks to their cooperation and support. One of them was not too long ago, the E2, and I've had that for, oh goodness, quite a while now. And it's been my daily watch. The original E actually went to a family member and they have been enjoying it very, very much so. We'll put the E aside and we're going to talk about this guy today. So this is the TicWatch Pro. And this is specifically the 4G/LTE model. And this is, I believe, only available at the recording of this video in the United States through Verizon and the UK through some other company. This is currently not available in Canada, which is one of the more interesting reasons as why I have it. If you're Canadian and you go on their Canadian website, this is not listed because there is not a carrier in Canada that is supporting the integrated SIM card officially. That being said, the 4G LTE model is nearly identical to the regular TicWatch Pro, and I will be featuring this watch actually in conjunction with my testing of the TicPod 2 Pro. So the idea is to kind of test these side by side as some kind of synchronous entertainment information system. There will be a video up and coming with the TicPod 2 Pro and the TicWatch Pro 4G/LTE. I'm just going to call it the TicWatch Pro throughout because TicWatch Pro 4G/LTE is a little bit too long to say. Today's actually a red letter day. I have had the E2 for exactly 300 days. And if you haven't seen my videos of this, I'm going to put them up here in the corner so you can check this out, because this to me is probably one of the better smartwatches that you can buy on a pretty reasonable budget. Now, speaking of reasonable budgets, this is the Pro model. It is certainly more expensive, especially if you are getting the 4G/LTE with that embedded SIM card and cellular activity plus Wi-Fi. One thing I wanted to just quickly touch on is the key differences between the 4G LTE version and the regular version of the Pro. The main difference is the amount of RAM that is actually present in this device. So in the regular version, it's 512 megabytes of RAM. In the 4G model, there is 1 gigabyte of RAM. So let's talk about some of the features, and they've actually gone and listed a lot of the basics on the back. This is a dual-layered display watch. So there is an AMO LED screen that does a lot of the legwork for Wear OS, but there is also an LCD, which is a FSTN, which stands for Film Compensated Super Twisted Pneumatic, I think. I'll put it down here. That pretty much runs the basic functions of the watch without the smart features, but it can run off of the battery for approximately 30 days, they claim. So if you run this in the regular mode, you'll get about 2 days with the battery using the LCD that's inside. If you're using the essential mode, they call it, then you could get up to 30 days. It is IP68 water and dust resistant. What that means is that no dust is going to get inside the watch, and you can immerse the watch in at least 1 meter of water without problem. So taking it to a swimming pool is probably going to be a-okay. Same thing with using it in the shower if you really wanted to. A couple of other specifications that I will list up here on the screen. It is a Qualcomm Snapdragon Wear 2100. It does come with 1 gigabyte of RAM and 4 gigabytes of storage. It does run off of Bluetooth 4.2 technology, and it includes other features like NFC payments. There aren't a whole lot of watches in Mobvoi's lineup that do have this feature, but this is indeed one of them. Oddly enough, it is the thinnest watch in the lineup at 12.6 millimeters thick, but it is also the heaviest, weighing at 58.5 grams. A speaker is included, as well as TicMotion and TicPulse technology, and it did meet the MLT, or the military standard 810G durability specifications. So if you want to know more about that, a quick Google search will tell you what tests this watch has gone through in terms of its durability. It is packed with sensors. We're talking GPS, heart rate, step, calorie burning, all that good thing that you would expect from a smartwatch. So enough of me actually talking specs at you. Let's go ahead and open up the box and see what comes inside. All right, so let's go ahead and find our way in. And it looks like we're going to be going in through the side of this guy. Unpacking prompt. Due to system updates, the battery might deplete rather quickly. Anticipated, rest assured the battery should stabilize within a week. Try fully charging before you start it up for the first time. So yeah, this is actually a thing with a lot of smartwatches and just technology, is that you'll pull it out of the box, the battery will die really fast because the calibration is a little wonky and the software needs to be updated. This is part of the course, but it's actually pretty smart that they include this, because a lot of the comments that I answered about battery life in the original TicWatch E videos pretty much involved these steps. So good job, Mobvoi. Here's the watch, and already that looks really sharp. So we're just gonna put that over here. We've got the charger, which almost looks the same as the charger for this guy, but there's no way that you could use it because of that clip. So the charger is going to be proprietary by design of plastic, I think. One way to know for sure is that if I can use my original TicWatch E2 charger, then that will reveal all, but it might be a different volt. And then we have ourselves a manual that is bound so close to we can barely read it. It's got all sorts of neat info in it, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and remove the sponge block there and undo the strap. The watch feels like a cut above the E2. Like I will admit that. Around the outside bezel, we actually do have numbers that have been etched into the inside of the bezel there. They are kind of, well, they're moderately easy to read. They're not like super easy to read, but they're definitely there. The heft of the watch is noticeable. It feels really, really good in the hands. It feels really high quality. In fact, I kind of want to replace the rubber strap with a metal strap. So we got some plastic to remove to reveal all of the sensors. There is some stuff written on this piece of plastic I just took off. It says this device, blah, 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 FCC, harmful interference, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Remove that. I also like the fact that they've actually contoured these bezels. That'll probably be a lot easier when wearing certain kinds of clothing or fabric for the watch to actually slip underneath. The display is the same resolution as the E2. However, this is quite certain Gorilla Glass 3 on at least the 4G LTE model. So in terms of like the functionality of these two watches, they are going to be somewhat similar, but the build quality is certainly what stands the two apart. Even looking at them, it's pretty clear to see that, you know, the premium differences between these two watches. Alright, so now we have to obviously pair this with Wear OS. Pretty standard step. And the usual first time setup process. So a couple things while this is doing its updates and what have you. There is a code here that you can use to set up on your cellular network. I can't because, you know, Canada and cell phones. If you're not in one of the countries that has a carrier that's already supporting this, then yeah, it's not a feature you really need to worry about unless you really want that extra amount of RAM that's also included. All right, there we go. So that is all set up. One thing I will say is that this is really responsive, and it probably has something to do with that extra half a gig of RAM, because everything is like super responsive. So it looks like by default the bottom button actually is right on TicMotion their workout setting, which is actually kind of nice. I appreciate that, mainly because the auto detect function, at least on the E2, didn't necessarily work the way that I wanted it, so that is pretty neat. One thing that I am trying to find is how do you put this guy into essential mode? Okay, so there we go. I'm guessing that's battery life, the time, the date, your steps, and that's it. Like they advertise, it's supposed to be relatively easy to read in most light conditions. We'll see. Just tilting it around, it seems to do a decent job. It's not any better or worse than a lot of watches. If it had a backlight, that would probably be kind of nice. It looks like if you tap this button during essential mode, it does fire off the heart rate monitor on the back, which is nowhere near as bright as this. Like, I was able to light rooms in the dark with this sucker. So it's kind of nice to see they've toned that down. And to get back out of this mode, so a long press seems to get you back in. I'm pretty sure if I long press, I can also get it to go into essential mode and not have to dig through the menus. At any rate, this is going to be day one of the TicWatch Pro. If you have any questions about its performance or anything that you would like to know, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below, and I will do my absolute best to answer those questions as they come in, and I'll make updates with not only my experience with this, but how it works in tandem with the TicPod 2 Pro. I'm going to leave the big four here at the bottom. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so when updates on the TicWatch Pro or the TicPod Pro 2 show up on the channel, you are made aware of it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.